What's up, everybody? It is Friday, September 27th. How you doing? Friday. So we had another one of these weird days today. The Dow on the open shot up. It was up over 400 points. It closed up like 130 points. The NASDAQ was struggling and was down all day. Like, the NASDAQ has not confirmed. Like, the Dow may close at a new high today. The S&P maybe, or it's close to another new high, but the NASDAQ's still kind of below its highs of, 3 months ago or something like that. So I'm not sure what that's all about. It just might be an issue of time, of patience, that eventually NASDAQ will get up there, or it could be the first signs of, those NASDAQ stocks outlook sort of deteriorating a little bit as the economic growth outlook deteriorates. It's not that evident right now in the data. I mean, the data is kind of mixed. We get some numbers that look strong. We get some numbers that look weak. But as you know, and I've been telling you guys that I'm forecasting, I expect to see a slowdown in the economy. Yesterday, I did a whole thing about, you got China cutting interest rates, you got the U.S. cutting interest rates, you got Europe cutting interest rates, England, Australia, New Zealand, everywhere but Japan. And so you're having a global reduction in fiscal. That's what those rate cuts are. This video is not going to be about that because I've gone over that so many times. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, an email conversation, and, we were talking about kind of the big picture situation. And he said, Mike, it's really simple. And then a light bulb went off in my head, and I'm thinking, you know what? It is really simple. And by simple, here's what I mean. And this is, again, this falls into the category. I talk to you guys a lot about, having that macro perspective, having that 30,000 foot perspective. You're flying over Manhattan at 30,000 feet. All those tall buildings, they look like tiny little things, okay? So the beauty of our system here in the U.S., and you could also apply this to other economies, but I'm going to do the U.S. The beauty of the system is that the way it's set up almost like a game, okay? In the sense that the government is the net spender, okay? The non-government is the net saver. So the government is constantly, you think of that pump going into the swimming pool. It's pumping in the funds, the transfers. The non-government, that's us. We need those dollars because we need them to pay tax. And the way it's set up is like, you're in a system where there's like two bookends. You know what bookends are? You got a shelf, you got the book, you got a bookend here, a bookend here. It keeps everything in place. On one of these bookends, you got the automatic stabilizers. The automatic stabilizers are things like, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment benefits, food stamps, disability. Those are there. They were set up. A lot of them were set up in the 1930s with FDR, and some of them in the 60s, like Medicare and Medicaid. And those things kick in when the economy contracts. Those things kick in automatically. That's why they're called automatic stabilizers. And there's just an automatic increase in spending because more people maybe sign up for Social Security, more people on Medicaid, more people file for unemployment benefits, disability, stuff like that. So those things, when the economy contracts, it reaches a point where those things start to expand, those outlays, that spending starts to grow to a point where it stabilizes the economy on the downside, all right? And then on the upside, the other bookend over here, the upside is the way it's set up is that as the economy grows and grows over a period of time, tax deposits to the Treasury increase, and that's mainly due to employment taxes. That's like the FICA and all that stuff that you get out of your paycheck. As as personal income grows, as wages increase, as more and more people work, it throws off more revenue to the federal government. So it's actually, like I've been talking about it, it acts like a brake. So it comes on very, very lightly at first, and then it starts to increase and increase over time, and it acts like a natural, like it stops the growth, or it slows the growth down. Remember the analogy I gave you is like putting your foot on the brake while you're driving the car. Even if you still have your foot on the gas, you're slowly starting to touch the brake and, putting more pressure. So you have these bookends. If you think about it, it's a beautifully simplistic system. All right? And then sprinkled into that system, we have elections every 2 years for Congress and every 4 years presidential. So if you follow that, because policy comes from politics, right? So every 2 years, there's potentially a change in policy that could affect fiscal. Every 4 years, there's potentially a change in policy that could affect fiscal. And you got to be aware of that, and you have to understand how those policy changes are going to impact. That's where like the MMT comes in. So it's a beautifully designed system. It's almost like a perpetual engine that kind of like swings back and forth in cycles, all right? The really, really big macro picture is a constant kind of long-term upward rise, because that's just like growth of population, technological advancement, productivity advancement, stuff like that, all right? So that's in the real background. But if you want to think about it, if you want to shrink it down into like this bookend analysis, it's really a simple and very, very incredible system. And when you understand that, like people have been asking me, like, Mike, if the economy goes in a recession, how do we know when it's time to buy? Again, that's simple. It's time to buy when those automatic stabilizers start kicking in and when tax deposits start falling, right? Because it's the reverse effect. In a recession, in a contraction, people lose their jobs, they're out of work, firms go out of business, tax deposits collapse, and the net transfers, aka the deficit, starts to increase, and that supplies, that supplies the lifeblood, that supplies the transfers that the economy needs to stabilize. So when you start to see that happen, and that's something that, you see it in the numbers. Like I track these numbers every single day. Like we're nowhere near that now. We haven't even entered into a recession. We're still in this side of the bookends where the tax deposits are growing and starting to apply that brake on the economy. And that's, of course, being helped out by the Fed rate cuts, which is it's a policy change, which most people out there believe it to be like a stimulus. Even the Fed people believe it to be a stimulus. But like I've been telling you guys, it's not going to work out that way. Especially when you have China doing it and Europe and all these other countries that I've been telling you about, and now retracting those interest income transfers, taking them away. So it's a beautifully designed, very simple, beautifully designed system. You really have to think about it in that context. The United States is unique because all the rest of the world basically runs trade surpluses with us. Okay, if we were like a different country, let's say we were like Japan or a country that runs trade surpluses, then the system would be structured a little bit differently. We'd have to be looking at the external net. Who is the external net payer? Okay, it's the United States for Japan. It's the United States for China. For all these exporting countries that export to the United States, we are their engine of growth, okay? It's the U.S. net government transfers that literally fund the economies of those export countries. Well, I don't want to get into that right now. I just want to stick with our system. It's a beautifully designed, simple system. It's an engine that's like a perpetual engine. Okay, it's got a bookend here, it's got a bookend here, and it oscillates back and forth with an underlying curve that advances. Okay, so each time when it goes back this way, it's going to be a little bit higher than it was the previous time. And each time that it goes back this way, it's going to be a little bit higher than it was the previous time. This beautiful, simple engine that has a cycle, really a cycle of every 2 to 4 years. Okay. I mean, it's a beautiful, simple engine, economic engine. And if you understand that, maybe to some of you, this whole thing's going over your head. You want to look at your charts. The charts tell you, go for it if you want to do that. I'm trying to give you a perspective on this thing that you're never going to hear anywhere else. But this is how it works. You got a bookend on this end. You got one on this end. And you have an underlying, I wouldn't even call it a tide. It's just like that, it goes up. And then you got that engine that cycles back and forth every couple of years. I mean, it's fabulous, man. If you understand this, like you can literally just, kick back and ride these, ride the engine, man. And you know what to do. Anyway, that's it for today. It's Friday. I went to the range today. I didn't get any injuries. Made sure I was away from that wall. It did. I mean, some cartridges did hit me, but they didn't hit me in the face. They were bouncing off the wall and coming back. I maybe hit right here. But no, it was a lot of fun. All right, everybody. Don't forget, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel. And go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. Have a nice weekend. Oh, by the way, I made it through the hurricane last night. I mean, we had some ferocious wind here. Not as bad as the people up in Tampa. We didn't have tons of water. I mean, there was no flooding in my area. Even the rain it was not like the rain we had with that tropical storm Debbie back in August. We had a lot of water then. But I'm telling you, man, for me, who's kind of like, a first timer with these things, I mean, my trees, I didn't have any damage. I had some small damage on some of my trees, but like nothing fell down. But man, there was some gusts like 75, 80 miles an hour. I can't even imagine what it's like. They got hit up around Tampa and a little bit northwest of there, like 140 mile an hour. I mean, that's scary. But everything's back to normal here. Have a great weekend. Bye.